Why are you doing this today? Why are you agreeing to be with me in this kind of virtual space?
Really, because I like hanging out with you, Lawrence. My labor, personally, professionally, is in the area of mental health, and that's an area that I'm passionate about. When you talked about like talking about the thing, then you know, I do enjoy attending to individuals of the range of identities that people have in our world. And
Offerings, one of your business offerings, the services that you provide for organizations, for teams, um, is around equity, diversity, and inclusion training. Is that right? Is that how you would describe it?
some of my skill sets lend itself to and have always been in training and consultation. And I'm a group therapist. So I'm both a licensed clinical social worker, certified group psychotherapist, and
Yeah, like what is insufficient in the EDI descriptor?
some of how my brain works and systems, like the systems that impact us, the systems that we're a part of, and that. And so that lends itself to my desire to work on systemic problems and how systemically things are being addressed in addition to kind of like the one-on-one work about like there's all these facets to our identities, whether it's age, gender, race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, gender identity, area of the world or country that we grow up in, small town, large city, village, all those different things that impact who we are. There may be certain configurations of who's in the in group or out grouped. There are people whose identities have been somewhat marginalized. There's certain people who, because of aspects of their identity, they're often left out of conversations, left out of visuals, left out of attention to resources. The inclusion piece is about like all of us. It's also about special attention to the fact that many people are often pushed out, left out, marginalized from conversations, attention to resources, and things of that nature. Privilege. I know that some people, there's a range of emotions around the use of that word.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's just trying to name the lived experience for people that some people do have access to certain things based on aspects of their identity, and some people have been pushed out, left out based on those aspects. And it can be at any given time we may have a feel like we have or experience of privilege or access with one aspect of our identity, and feel like left out, marginalized, lack of privilege in another aspect of our identity.
And in my schooling, in medical school training, I never got any of this discussion.
Traumas, harms, violence, things that are happening in our communities where people are more collectively saying, hey, we're aware of this, or we're becoming aware of this. How do we really address this in a different way? I have multiple worlds that I've navigated in over the course of my lifetime, that what is equitable or what feels like equity for one person may be different for another. It's kind of like what does each person need, which may be different for one versus the other. And it's really being attuned to the the beauty and the diversity of people that there are, and can we like make sure that we're being attentive to that, as opposed to we're only being attentive to this one group right here and then trying to apply that to everybody, as if the thing that is helpful for this one group is though that's the thing that's helpful for everybody in all the ways.
Some people may not be, especially if they're super busy, may not be ready to accept the the potential complexity of this world perspective where everybody has multiple layers of identity, and then now I have to think about all of these different identities and needs. And there might be the thought that there's no way that we can practically use this worldview and actually make sure that the progress that needs to happen will happen.
Part of being in community is being conscious of how we're showing up with other people. And then some people may say, well, I only want to be in community with these people. Somebody else comes along and you're behaving with them towards with bias and certain viewpoints, that's because you're only focusing on this and they're being harmed. If only the theoretical models that are being attended to have these ways of operating, and we're perpetuating that, then that means somebody who like doesn't fit into that mold, how are they being harmed when they're coming in for service with us or coming in for service with someone that's the frame that they're using? And if their view is like, oh, this is the box, well, how does that mean that you're potentially harming someone who comes from like, a different box? So if I'm going into a dermatologist and I'm talking about a particular skin condition that I have, and this dermatologist like can't fathom because they never saw in medical school that, you know, Black people have this particular condition. So then I'm getting poked and prodded and experimented on because they get this in their frame of box, right? They didn't know. No one taught like in medical school, like they didn't give diverse pictures. They only gave one picture, one skin tone. So this is the picture. So then I come in with my brown self and they can't see like, yeah, I have rosacea. And then I just thought back about this recently about like, well, but it's rare. Well, when we think about like in the research, even in my field, when we're only researching in a box, we don't really know what certain things are rare or not. We don't really know like what the prevalence is in other populations because we still are operating from the box. The making space for the broader worldview means that you're being attentive to what really is in existence. It's not like you're making room for something that's not already present, but what you're doing is you're acknowledging that it is present. And when people say like I'm busy, but these are the spaces that we chose to be in. We chose to be in community. Now, mind you, like I said, there's some communities they want to be over here, but they're not just staying over there. They're doing things that are affecting all the rest of us. When we're saying, oh, I'm not going to deal with this, I'm only going to deal with my little life. Well, when we're not dealing with some of these social issues, these are the repercussions. This is how things show up because no one's over there talking about it.
Mm,
Nope, just going to deal with this little slice of life. Well, how does this little slice affecting everything else?
mm,
So by us not dealing with it, we put ourselves into positions where we're going to have to deal with it one way or another down the road because it's happening in our communities.
mm. Us pretending that our silos are the only silos that matter is not working and it's not serving us. And I think so. What you just said, that if we don't speak about these things and have these sometimes difficult conversations, because they're disruptive of worldviews, some of these conversations that you bring to your
Mhm.
clients, and that if we don't have them, our chance for more peace or peaceful community progress is reduced.
That's that long-term goal, right? Can we be in community with each other in ways that are more respectful, loving, caring, peaceful? Um, and absolutely, that is part of the why that I do this work. Go into a cell phone store and I'm talking about my plan. Oh, we'll take this and we'll check this phone to make sure it's not stolen. And I'm like, okay, that's the thing? Huh. So I give, I give at least some deference to like, maybe he just kind of needs some little prompting to think about some other options there. So like, are there any additional reasons why we might have to wait? Like no, stolen. 'Cause so, in that context, some of it is like, I personally just want to have peace to be able to go into a store. And I would like to have peace for other people who might look like me or have some other aspect of diversity that they come into a store with to be able to just get a transaction done without being put into a box or without, someone who's not considering how they're showing up because it's too much work to do. Well, that's part of the work in being in community. That's part of the work in working in a store where you have people of diverse identities who may come in for service. Personal bias that may come up about what you may think about me, that's stuff that has to be worked on.
So part of the driver for you to jump into this work boldly is to really try to create safer spaces for people who are marginalized. Is that right?
Mhm.
Mm. It sounds like a very worthwhile mission to make people feel safer where they are, whether they're going to a cell phone store or going to work. Or what is the impact of your work? Let's say you have training sessions with a particular team. So what is some of the feedback that you've seen that
Like, oh, someone's in to try to, I don't have to be the only voice who's talking about this stuff. So there's someone else who's coming in to name the thing that I've been seeing happening, some safe harbor there as well. And I see that as a win, as a progress, as a positive impact. And then um, sometimes it is seed planting. And sometimes that success is like someone saying, huh, I'd never considered that. And this is going to be, I'm going to, step back and kind of think about this, or I'm going to kind of like work on this. So when I'm engaged in the work of policy and procedure development, that to me is also, I see that as a positive, because then you're talking about structural shifts and changes within organizations to really affect operating in a different way that's attentive to, a broader base of individuals. Or even sometimes it's that painful, I don't want to deal with that, but being called in, like, why is it difficult to deal with? What is the pain that you're feeling, or what is the challenge that you're having with dealing with that, and helping someone to work through what the things are that has given them some difficulty.
with your training, there's the potential for making work cultures or team cultures a lot more safe, where people feel more included, might actually engage more in their work, might
Hmm.
actually become better teams in performance overall.
When you have companies that are really, really leaning into like their internal customers and their external customers, and being attentive to like the value of diversity, the value that different ideas and perspectives and identities bring to the table. um, I think that that's helpful in workplace culture, but also in the products and services that are given to in our communities. Think of lots of examples where people are in companies that may have a public face of one thing, and then a experience that people may have of staff are allowed to speak in ways that are derogatory, or people are treated in ways that are disrespectful and counter to what the public proclamation of that company is. And I,
So some of your work is just helping with congruence, helping the alignment of the internal team and the external face of the company match up. Mm,
hmm,
yeah.
which again, when people are happier in their work life, like, people enjoy being in a space and producing, and whatever that means. But like when companies again are attending to both your internal and external client base, that shows often where people may want to stay with you. But I don't mean just one kind of grouping of people want to stay with you. So if it's only people of one identity that wants to stay with you, how does that show up in the products and services that you're offering to the world?
I know I recognize that within my healthcare space, and reflecting on what you've been saying, that the majority of people who kind of check out from work, like kind of disengage from purpose in their work, it's because of feeling disrespected by someone in their workspace, or feeling like they're being treated unfairly, and they may actually stay in that position still getting wages, but their performance actually often tanks. And I've actually witnessed that just in my own experience. So I
Gotcha.
think that creating safer spaces where people feel more respected and feel recognized and seen for who
Hmm.
they are in all their complexity would
Hmm.
really improve joy at work potentially, like, and
Hmm.
connection with purpose and connection with team members. So this is really, really important work that you're doing. If I was to be a client, or my team was to become a client of yours, would it all be just difficult, uncomfortable conversations? Or is it fun? Is your
We gotta have
training?
fun. Are there times where we have to dig into some stuff? Yeah, but like, I also bring in the beauty of digging into some stuff, like the rewards of that. And like sometimes people think like you can't bring humor into like these kind of conversations. Introducing like humor into to activities together is important. Introducing like self-care, joy, that's always important. And I try to keep it very interactive.
If people want to learn more about what you do, how can they reach you if they have questions?
777 griffinfamilytherapy.com.
GriffinFamilyTherapy.com. That's GriffinFamily therapy.com, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Hmm.
Well, thank you so much, Latoya, for taking the time today. I know that there was some hesitation in doing this with me, and I appreciate you taking the leap.
Let me qualify. I know that I'm talking a lot with you, but I can be a little shy and a little bit more reserved. I like to do the things like when I'm on doing the things and I'm talking about the things, that's one thing. But like, to talk about me in this kind of context, I get a little shy and reserved. I'm a little bit more of an introvert in that regard. So yes, I was hesitant for that reason. But I've also appreciated you asking me and being able to spend the time with you here.
Thank you.
You're welcome.